You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the August 21st meeting of the Michigan City Finance Committee 2024 Budget Hearings, Part 1. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
And welcome to the City of Michigan City Finance Committee 2024 Budget Hearings. We'd like to start off with roll call. Mr. Fitzpatrick? Mr. Paul Prince-Belinsky? Tracy Tillman? Present. 2 present, 1 is absent, and we do have a quorum. If Mr. Paul Prince-Belinsky appears, we will acknowledge him upon his arrival. Amen. So starting off, I would also like to acknowledge those that are in attendance. We have Controller Hoffmaster, and from the Controller's office, we have Mary Lynn and Tamiko. We also have in attendance Councilman Brian Dabney and Councilman Don Prince-Belinsky. So starting off with the 2024 Finance Committee Budget Workshop, we have for August 21st, 2023, at 5:01 p.m., starting off with the boards and commissions. If there's any chairs or presidents present at this time.
I say you want to do the summary first.
Oh, Judy. Control Office, would you like to do a summary as you did the presentation at the finance meeting? Please. Thank you.
Sure. To do just a quick summary, the total city budget for 2024 is $69.4 million. We are anticipating a maximum levy of next year, which is our property tax, of $28.8 million. And of that $28.8 million, $10.1 million is the estimated circuit breaker. So that's the amount that we will not receive of our maximum levy. So that leaves our maximum property tax we anticipate to receive at $18.6 million. In this 2024 budget, we have budgeted an increase for all of the city employees, the majority of the city employees, and a 12% increase for the firefighters and 13% increase for the police officers. There is also listed for the civilian employees a slight increase in the longevity from $450 for every 3 years to $650 for every 3 years of service. That will max out at $5,200. And the on the vacation bonus for the non-contractual employees, we just made that a one level of 3.5% that matches all of the union contracts. We have also budgeted an increase in the health insurance from $17,000 and $18,000 per employee to $19,000 per employee. And through the state legislature, there was an increase in the police and fire pension liability from 18% to 19.1%. And then in the letter that was submitted by the mayor, there's a table of the proposed capital expenditures that total $6.7 million, and that's across all of our capital funds.
Thank you, Controller Hoffmaster. Did anyone have any questions at this time from the Finance Committee? There are none. Any from council that's in attendance?
I just have one question. I'll bring it up now, but this will fall under the Park Department. The Gardena Park, the resurfacing of the walking trail. And why did that bring up as a capital expenditure? I've looked at that walking trail, and yeah, there's maybe every 30 feet, there's a, I guess you'd call it an expansion crack. But that could be rectified with putting, just like they did on Franklin Street on the cracks, just tar them up. And according to some expertise that I'm aware of, that could get longevity out of that walking track for another 7 years. Now, there is a bad spot in that walking track that's probably about 30 feet long, that's got spider webbing in it, in the blacktop. You know, that there could probably possibly be taken out and do a little work there, but overall, I can't see the expenditure of $165,000 on a walking track. That, I don't know if anyone in this room even went and looked at it, but I don't think it's that bad.
That was listed as a priority.
No, I
Big part
understand.
admin,
I'm just bringing I'm just
unfortunately, that would
expressing,
have to be a question we would have to address with them on
Right.
Friday when they're here.
yeah,
But that was listed to the administration as a priority.
Okay.
So that's all of the capital expenditures. And when the mayor and I went through this budget, we did have to cut several of these to get this budget to balance. But we asked every department to list their capital requests in priority order. So that one made it onto the budget because it was listed as a priority.
yeah, and I understand your explanation, Yvonne, because we
Okay.
go through that every year. And I'm just saying, I went and looked at that, because I live right down by Gardena Playground. And I walked that walking trail many times, and I just can't see spending $165,000 on a walking trail that doesn't need to be fixed. Maybe repaired a little bit, but not totally replaced at $165,000.
Thank you, Councilman Don Prisbalinski. I would ask that if we could to stay on the departments that's before us, but because this was just explained what our capital expense bottom line number is, I understand why the question, we posed the question at that time, but we're gonna try to stay on track according to the departments that we have listed. So I appreciate that.
Did you want me to go over these handouts that I just gave you? Because these were things that were requested
Yes.
last week at the finance committee. Who was here, Bryant? Thank you.
Don?
I think I gave Don.
Yeah, I got all that.
So, on the first two are comparisons for the salary ordinances from 23 to 24. So what this does is just list the 24 rate is in the first column and the 23 rate is in the second column. Those are the number columns, obviously. And it's broken down between the salaried positions and the hourly positions. So the highlighted ones on each of the reports, so under the salaried positions, the highlighted ones are showing an increase greater than 6%. And so if you look at the second page, it has a brief explanation why there were an increase greater than 6%. So under the city engineer, it was an increase in the salary to attract more candidates. Under the police and fire chiefs, those go along with the increases given to the rank and file in the police and fire. So those are at that 12 and 13% for the police chief and the fire chief. Under the vector control officer, we will be submitting an ordinance to the council because we will be restructuring or make an amendment to an ordinance that created the Central Services Department that no longer, that structure is no longer being used. So vector control will become a department of its own. So that salary is reflected of being a department head. And then the last one under the cemetery, the admin position was actually, has been requested to be reclassified as the assistant superintendent. So that pay was increased to match that category of position that is.
And what was the current title?
Admin 3, I believe. Yes, admin 3. So are there any questions on the salaried table?
Has, from changing the cemetery, from admin 3 to a superintendent, can you tell me what changed in that job description? What was added?
Well, this person will be the assistant superintendent, so they will take on supervisory duties. I believe that position will be taking over a lot of the sales.
He's already doing that.
And yeah, from what I understand, that position is already doing that.
Correct.
So that was a request from the board that position be made an assistant superintendent because they currently really don't have anybody in that official role. So we're creating that role. So if the superintendent is off on vacation or sick or whatever, that there would be somebody. Angie.
Thank you. How much staff does the cemetery have?
I believe they have seven full-time employees, and then seasonal employees. I'm not sure how many they hired this year. But they would have, maybe a little bit more detail, if you have any questions when they're here tomorrow.
Okay.
So the only change under the hourly is because of the restructuring of the vector control department. The assistant vector control officer was reclassified to be in a supervisory position instead of just the way that it was structured. So that position would also, will be creating more supervisory duties.
So that'll become a department head,
No, no.
vector,
The vector control officer, yes,
that'll be a department head.
correct.
And how many employees will he be over?
They have currently 2 full-time employees and then a staff of seasonals.
And how many seasonal employees are there?
We can ask them during their,
Okay,
That's today.
yeah, they're here, so we can talk to them today. But I was just going over the handouts that I gave you
yeah,
guys.
okay, all right.
So that was the first thing that you guys had asked for. So if there's any other questions or anything you can come up with, at any time, just call or email my office and we can address those questions. The next 2 handouts I gave you addressed the question you wanted to know where we were with the revenues over the expenditures. So that's the report that's called Annual Budget by Account Classification. All that shows is our anticipated revenues and our proposed budget. And then the very bottom line shows if the revenues are over or under the expenses. So we do know that some of these are the expenses are over the revenues. And we also know that there's several of these funds that we need to keep a very close eye on. Because the funds that have one-time expenditures and they're over, the expenses are over the revenues, those are being covered by current cash balances. So for example, the MVH restricted fund, we do $1 million a year on that and we bring in about $640,000. But the cash reserve in that fund is used to cover that $1 million that we use for the Community Crossings grant match. And then other funds, like I said, we just know we have to keep an eye on because they are reoccurring. And we'll have to make some decisions in coming years how we're going to manage those funds. But the second one shows the, and that's the one, and I actually didn't put a title on this one, I apologize. This is just an excerpt from one of the Gateway budget forms that shows, the very first line on shows our estimated December 31st cash balance by fund. And the bottom line shows our estimated cash balance on December 31st of 2024.
Are these, can I ask a question, are these estimates after money that you're using towards this next budget?
Yes,
Yes, they are.
Okay, so this is the balance that you foresee
right.
going
So,
into the 2024 year?
right, on the very first line, that's our estimated December 31st, 2023 cash balance, and that's taking into account that we spend 100% of the 2023 budget and collect 100% of our anticipated revenues.
Okay.
So this is a lot of information right here, so, you know, obviously if you come up with questions, please just reach out to us and we can get the answers for you.
Okay. Well, thank
Can
you.
I ask one more question?
Yes.
So that's 100%, so basically, with the ending of 2024, that means we're gonna spend more than, because it's lower than what we're gonna have when we end in 2023. So that means we're gonna spend more this year of Riverboat than we did. Because I'm looking at the ending
Yeah,
balance.
that's the proposed budget, correct, yes.
All right.
Yeah, because those numbers are based on what's proposed and obviously we haven't adopted that budget yet, so.
Okay, got it.
Are there any other questions at this time? Then moving on, we'll start off with the 2024 boards and commissions. If there are any chair or presidents in attendance.
I'm Jim Neeson, Treasurer of Michigan City Public Art Committee.
If you could, I would ask if you could come up to the table. I would have had them to sit there for the department head so that they could be acknowledged and to speak to the finance committee.
There you go, Shannon. Keep sitting up here.
So did you,
Yeah.
like to address the finance committee?
We're not asking for any changes to our 2024 budget. We'd like to leave it the same as 2023. This year's budget was $42,770,000. In 2023, the council did give us an extra $20,000, which we've been using for neighborhood art projects. The Canada Park mural painting got started today. We're still working on a mural for the skate park ramps. And we've also added 3 pieces to our revolving Sculpt Fusion. So we appreciate the additional $20,000 for us to spread out in the city. And but that's it, we're not asking for any other changes.
Okay. Did you have any questions, Ms. Patrick?
Nope.
None? Any from the council?
Nope.
If there are none, thank you, Ms. Henry, thank you.
And also listed on here was park board budget, but they don't have a budget, so.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, city comment council. department budget.
Did you guys have any questions about the Board of Works budget? I think that was listed under your boards and commissions.
I had that separate.
Oh, you had it separate, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's last, that's towards the end
Towards the end,
today, yeah.
okay.
Page 10. If you could turn to your, budget books, it's on page 10.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Patrick?
No questions or comments?
There are none. Are there any questions or comments from the council?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I know, there are gonna be new council folks, just by design. It looks like we never spend, the transportation and travel expense. When there's new council people that come on, do you see an uptick in that or not? Does it still just stay the same?
It just depends.
Okay,
I know this council, I believe the first year, I believe Councilwoman Tillman took advantage of the newly elected officials training. But it just depends. Some years, we don't spend anything, and other years, as you can tell, we spent some money in 21, we spent half of it in 22, and we've only spent, just a small portion in 23 so far. And this would have been through, whatever date I did this, through August 9th.
thank you.
And it was, we did include a 6% increase on the council stipend in this budget also.
If there are no further questions, we will move on to the next, which would be central maintenance. That is also located in your budget workbook on page 101.
Page 18.
It's 18.
Oh, my apologies, that was under the riverboat.
Yeah, that's the riverboat section, yes.
My apologies. And for central maintenance, the department head, if you'll please state your name.
Cranston Harris.
Good evening, Mr. Harris. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
That's good. First and foremost, I would just like to thank you for turning in your department head Q&A that was presented out to you, which will out to all the department heads as well. And so within yours, you stated that there was no substantial changes to you said there is substantial changes to your budget for 2024. Could you state those, please?
Yeah, the police department, some of the fire department and refuse are going to different models. We have to keep up with what they're driving. I need different software for my computers in order to read these automobiles, the same thing with the buses. And they're like $4,500 a year just for Cummins Quick Serve to put into my computer. We would like to have another oil burner. I have an oil burner that burns used oil in my shop. I'd like to have 2 of them, and it would probably cut my gas bill in half because we burn used oil and we change everybody's oil down there. And they're running around $3,500 to $4,000 installed from what I could see. So I'd like to do that. And there's some other upgrades. All of my lifts have been certified, but they have to be recertified like every couple of years. When I got there, they hadn't been certified in 4 years. So I'm going through that and I'm getting them certified and we try to keep them in good condition. But I've got one lift that I don't have a pump for and that's like $6,000. I burnt out a crane that I need desperately and it was $6,000 and it comes out of my budget. And I just want to keep it upgraded. To be honest with you, there's no guarantees I'm going to be here in the next 2-3 years, whether it's administration change or anything else. But I have a great bunch of guys, and I want to keep them up to date. They're younger, they'll be here for a while, and when I leave, I want to put them in a good position to where they can go to work until someone who takes my job acclimates themselves so they can keep going, keep everything running for the city. It's been an uphill grade because of the age of the equipment, and there have been some model changes. The police are going through it now, and they're going from Ford to Chrysler, and that costs me extra money because they take full synthetic oil, which before I used a multi-grade, and now I got to buy, and it's almost twice as expensive, and I carry it in bulk. So that's coming up. And when those lease cars, when the leases are done, they'll be getting more of them. And some of them we already own. So the costs are going up. Give you for instance, one of the police cars came in, it was one of these, it was a 9,000 mile, one of these SUVs. And the front brake shoes are $400. And I usually can afford the whole car for $400. This is just for the front brakes. So it's getting very expensive as these cars are transitioning, and the parts are getting more expensive. And I spend a day trying to find the cheapest I can find, and it's just getting up there. And with the age of some, especially refuse, because you guys are in bad shape. They've got several trucks that cost us a lot of money to keep going, and there's something wrong with them every day. To give you, for instance, as of last week, each vehicle has a work order that they send me to do the work on their cars. And as of last week, we've done 1,561 work orders since January 1st. That's a lot. If we keep it up, we'll do over 3,000. And that's everything from oil changes to brakes to whatever's wrong with it.
And within your budget, do you feel that your budget is suffice in order for you to?
I have been able to make it work because I do a lot of telephone calls and I know a lot of people that can give me a better price, but I've been able to make it as best as I can. But at the end of the year, I do run real thin, especially when it comes to the police department, because they have a lot of vehicles, and a lot of those vehicles, take for instance what they call that thing down there, MRAM or whatever it is.
Oh, the MRAP.
Yeah, MRAP. 4 batteries for that cost $2,800. And that comes out of my budget.
Do they use that?
No.
Yeah,
They use it.
Well, it's ready to be used.
it's ready to be used.
Yeah,
If
and
they
be put in
want,
service
if
whenever
they
they
want
need it.
batteries, I have to give them to them,
That's
whether
what
I
I'm
have the
saying,
money or not.
that's the word the same thing.
And
But they
last
haven't used it.
year in January, they asked me for batteries, and they were $2,800. Tires for that thing is probably $1,600 or $1,800 a piece, if I can find it.
Are there any questions from the audience? Are there any questions from any of the council that's present? Yes.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I think to make the departments that use central maintenance and take their vehicles down to central maintenance, what Cranston's budget is, that budget should go back to the fire department, police department, whoever else sends vehicles down to Cranston. and let those departments manage their money and be responsible for the repairs or the wear and tear that the employees are putting on these vehicles versus having Cranston have to worry about whether he has money in the budget to pay to repair these vehicles. Because right now, he gets the budget, he gets all the money, okay? And they send him police cars, they drop them off, hey, do this, do that. And then the chiefs, they'll call, hey, do this, do that. And, okay, who's held responsible for it?
And
I don't know.
And I agree with that, and that's something that we addressed, for every year in regard to that.
Right.
The finance committee would like to make a can we make a recommendation? To make a recommendation that the fire and the police department is responsible for their, expenses when it comes to the repairs of these vehicles, and that is removed from central maintenance.
Or at least reimbursement.
Or, yes.
Can I
And the reason being,
Can I interject a minute?
Yeah, they have, you'd have to.
I'm not
amend
throwing
the ordinance that
anybody under the
created this
bus,
department,
but here's my
which we would
interpretation
take everybody
of
out. It would
it.
just
If
go
the
back to the way
department
it was.
head knows
Okay.
that he's spending his money, he would be more cognizant of what his people are doing with them.
Stop driving these.
That's what
Right now, they
Yes.
don't. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. Is there abuse? Absolutely. But he would be more cognizant of knowing what they're doing. And they could better, especially the fire department, because their parts for their trucks are very expensive. It's $2,500 for a supercharger for one of their trucks. And that's one of their older ones. $3,500 for a newer one. And they burn them out like you wouldn't believe. And that all comes out of my budget. And at the end of the year, they don't worry about it. They get, here's my truck, fix it. They don't care what it costs. I need new tires, fix it. They could better plan for their maintenance. They could see who's abusing. And it would be better, I don't mind buying them for them. I'll find them the parts and I'll send them the bill when the part comes in. I don't have a problem with that. It's just that it makes it a big headache. Like I mentioned last year in January, the police department wanted $2,800 worth of batteries, and that's after Yvonne had already cut my head over there as far as budget goes. And I told him I couldn't afford it. He said, well, it's a good thing I don't have a gunfight down there. And that's what I hear all the time.
But can I ask you one question? I know you list all your work orders. Isn't there a way that you can, is there any kind of report you get from your work orders that could be sent to a department head and the mayor to say, here's all the work orders, here's all the work orders the police department are doing?
Absolutely.
So I think maybe that's the first step
And when
to
the department head sees that, you know where they go? Right
Well, I
there.
think that maybe you need to have a meeting with the mayor
Yeah.
and have make sure the mayor is aware of all the work orders.
I got one question.
That's fine.
Have you expended your whole budget since you've been here?
No, and
For
that's,
equipment repairs or anything? Have you ever?
I came real close.
Close.
I have come close. Yeah, last year when he wanted them $2,800 batteries, I came close.
Well, last year, your bottom line budget was $1.7 million, and you spent 1.3. So you still had $400,000 left to expend in your budget at the end of last year.
Yeah, but what if you would only spend $900,000 if they were being less reckless?
Exactly.
Right, that's the point.
It's only gonna change where it's coming from, being that he's central maintenance.
But we're saying it would create a sense of oversight for the leadership to say,
The leadership still has to be there regardless of who has the budget. And if the leadership isn't there, it doesn't matter if Cranston has it or the fire department or anywhere. They're still gonna drive in the same way. They're still gonna have the same accidents. There has to be accountability wherever the money is funded at. That's all
I
I'm
think
saying.
the difference is, the distinction is to be made between normal wear and tear and abuse.
Agreed, but that has nothing to do with where the money is funded at, though.
No.
That has to do with,
Correct. No, I agree with you on that.
Yes.
yeah. But my point is that central maintenance was the central, or the way I understand it, I only got 8 years in here, but central maintenance was formed to handle all of the city cars, which is why the budget went there. And so, for me, I feel like, we've had plenty of conversations, Cranston and I especially, but just like Mary Lynn said, if you're generating and pushing that information out that, hey, I got 1,500 work orders and 750 of them, 800 is police and 800 is fire or whatever, that's information that needs to go to the next level so it can be addressed, because that has nothing to do with where the money is funded at. I think that you always do an awesome job. You always, if you look at last year, what you were budgeted, especially in your repair and maintenance lines, to what was actually spent, it really is very well maintained, and I know it's probably a hassle for you. You know, and again, that has to come from the top more so than anything you're doing, you know what I mean? But where the money is funded is there for a reason.
It's not the work that I'm concerned about.
Right.
And it's not the telephone calls and the searching of parts. It's when a person says, I want this, and you can't provide it, it's a flat that you get, even if you give them these. And I'm not distinguishing one department from another one, but you get it. Well, how come I can't have it?
And Mr. Harris, and I do understand what Tamiko is saying,
I do
and
too.
what our stance is as well, but this is that's gonna be a different conversation that's not for the city finance.
Right.
That's an administration, an executive
But
decision.
it's also something that us as council members can do by ordinance.
We've had this conversation every year.
Correct.
Cranston tracks the cost, he segregates them. It hasn't come across my desk to do anything about it. So,
Okay. And I can make that happen. If that's what you guys want, I'll be happy to do that. Cause it's just getting in the computer and printing them out. My thing is, if I send it to them and nothing happens, that's a problem.
But let me stop you right there, Mr. Harris. So as of today, when you leave from here, I would recommend that you forward that on to the mayor, email it, also CC the council in on that as well,
Okay,
and we go from there.
I can do that.
Okay.
I can do that.
So if there are no other questions or concerns in regards to the central maintenance, then other than the recommendations of removing the two, fire and the police from his budget for repairs, but other than that, there's no changes in the budget line at this time. And I thank you for your time.
You're welcome, anytime. You're welcome. I gotta come back. I'm staying for the street.
Next, we have the street vector control. May I please have that department head? If you could come up, please, yes.
You should probably, because you're actually the department head there right now. The other one hasn't happened yet, and it will be by ordinance later this year.
Where would you like?
If you can take a seat there next to Councilman Brzezinski. Okay. If you'll state your name and your department, please.
Steve Hahn, Vector Control.
What page are we on there?
47.
47.
Thank you.
So currently, vector control is being handled on the street department.
That's right.
Okay, so.
And so we have Mr. Hahn here, and according to your Q&As that was provided to the Finance Committee, you indicated that there was no substantial changes to your budget. There are no positions that needs to be filled at this time for your department. The equipment that you needed for your department, you indicated a Bobcat, UW-56 utility vehicle, a 16 hydraulic dump trailer, another 16 hydraulic dump trailer, and 3 stand-up mowers?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And do you currently have these, but they're not in good condition? They need to be replaced? Or?
We have mowers, but yes, those need replaced. The others are additions to the department.
The other 3 are additions to their
Yes.
department, okay. Okay. Do you have any questions?
No.
And then, just going over your budget, do you have any questions or concerns in regards to your budget do you foresee this budget being doable for your department in order to fully function for the city?
It is doable with the exception I would like to add another couple thousand on the overtime, if possible. Leaf season's coming up and we do help out street department. And that's usually where they get the majority of their overtime out.
Did you request that?
Is that in your budget? Did you request it? You requesting it now?
Yes, there's an extra 1,000 that's been put in there, but I would like to just put it out there that we probably will need another couple.
Do any of the council members have any questions?
I have a couple questions. With those mowers, you say you need, how many mowers?
3.
3? One of those could be doing replacing the ones you have?
Correct. We have 2 of them that are usable but leak a lot of oil. Have issues with them.
So what's the plan for those?
Disposal.
Are you getting trade-in for the new one you plan on purchasing?
Unfortunately, we haven't found. Frontier is usually who we order from and they don't do a trade-in. It'd be nice if we can find somebody who does.
So there's no way that you can get those mowers. How much does a new mower cost?
The ones we're looking at, anywhere from $5,500, $6,500. We fixed them as much as what we're capable. They're about what we could judge. I wasn't here, but they're thinking they're 7 to 8 years old at least. So that's a lot for a stand-up mower.
Have you guys went to Frontier or anything to ask them if they could fix them? Or have you brought in like a manufacturer's rep to say, can you guys do any more to these mowers?
We take all of our stuff to Frontier. Yeah, they can fix it, but at this point, at what point is it worth it? It is, you get up there where it's almost the same amount as a new one.
Okay, can we discuss or is that at a different time?
What's that?
The change in making vector control supervisor at the
That's what
department head?
I was getting ready to ask the same question. So when will
Can we
that?
talk about that now? Go
Yes.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yes.
Can we talk about that now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so how many folks work in the vector control department?
I have
Full-time and seasonal?
I have myself an assistant, 2 full-time, and right now 5 seasonal. We did have 6, but we let 1 go, so.
Okay, so you got 2 full-time, 5 seasonal, yourself
And
as
an
a
assistant.
department head.
Correct.
And an assistant. Okay, so when you go somewhere, if you're sick, if you're on vacation, there's always somebody there to cover your position.
Correct.
Okay. Then how much would we be paying this new department head versus how much God pays right now?
It's about a $12,000 increase.
What would the total be, Yvonne? What would the total be?
55,000, what
That would
other
be-
department heads at that level make.
Okay. But no change in responsibilities, the way I see it. You still have an assistant.
No, there's still a change in responsibility. Currently, he doesn't run the department, it's run by Mr. Smith.
Oh, okay,
He reports to Mr. Smith.
okay.
So what we're doing is we'll be amending the ordinance that created the Central Services Department back under Sheila Burleson. I can't remember the exact date. I believe it was early 2000s.
So he'll be a department head versus a supervisor.
Right, and that's what it was before. So instead of being a supervisor, it will now become a department head where that position will be responsible for the budget, they'll be responsible for the employees that work in that department, they'll be responsible to the equipment, and that position will report to the mayor. And that was the setup before the central services was created.
Okay, so why are we doing that now?
Well, because it's, other than Vector, it's been that way for 2.5 years, where the street department director reports to the mayor now, the transit director reports to the mayor now. We no longer have a central services superintendent.
Okay, what are the advantages of putting this job reporting directly to the mayor versus reporting directly to Sean Smith? And this gentleman only has 7 employees. It's not like he has 40 employees, you know, that he has to supervise. And I don't know why you guys made the decision. That's what I'm asking, why you made a decision to give a employee that has, or a supervisor that has 7 employees underneath them, changes, and all you're doing is, well, I guess no, he's gonna be responsible for his budget, which I'm sure he's responsible for his budget anyway. No, Sean was all responsible for it.
That is correct.
Okay. But still, I know he had
And that's
to keep track of the monies he was spending.
You know, I'm
Okay,
gonna refer to the mayor because this was the mayor's
It
decision.
probably alleviates some of the responsibility from.
And actually, yes.
Gives him more accountability since he has to do Vector for the entire city. I mean.
It's also more efficient.
Because the
He
amount of.
doesn't have to go to Sean, who's got a full plate, he comes to me,
Yeah.
because I would have to appropriate the money anyway. So it's more efficient.
Right, and then, we're trying to beef up the weed lien process. So, and that's a big responsibility also that will be put on that department.
So let me ask this question. Could we anticipate this department needing more employees or more seasonal staff at some point, since we have these initiatives we're looking at?
That's a possibility.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
He helps with tree cutting, he helps with leaf pickup, talking
So
about,
Mike, I'm thinking with those dumps you're requesting, you're gonna be removing a lot of brush.
Brush, litter, and we can actually help out with refuse on occasion, you know, stuff like that.
okay, just one more question, since you run that department, and I guess your department is taking on, I guess, a little bit more work, especially with cutting, you know, growth on easements and, you know, and things like that. But, you know, I guess where my issue's at with that is that you'll cut, you know, easements on one side of the street, but then leave easements on the other side of the street alone and won't touch them. And there's, you know, vision problems there, out of ordinance issues there, but, you know, we pick one side, but we don't take care of the other side. So, just a comment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments from the council? If there are none, there are no recommendations at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the street department, page 90. Correct, and page 90.
51.
What?
Page 51 is the MVH.
And the street department is MBH 201.
Page 51, and then page 104 is their capital requests.
Or maybe that's.
The street department has multiple funds. We have the street department, which is their operating fund where their personnel is. We have the local road and street budget, which is, we do, you know, street repairs with that money. That's a salt budget, the road salt that we buy. We have the MVH restricted, which was a fund that was created by legislation, where 50% of the MVH money goes for for road repairs. It's for the maintenance and maintenance of roads. So there's multiple funds that are covered under Mr. Smith.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Smith, how are you?
Good evening, doing fine.
That's good. So I have in front of me your Q&As for your department, and you indicated there was no substantial changes to your budget, and that you do not have any positions not filled in your department that are in your budget. However, for question 4, what equipment is needed for your department to fully operate to run the city? If you could elaborate on those items, you mentioned a bucket truck, 2 450s dump, GPS dash cams, municipal tractor, I can't,
Attachment, sorry.
and sweeper.
Yes. Okay, the first one listed by priority needs is a bucket truck. I think everyone knows this past upcoming season, we had a large abundance of trees fall within the city. Currently, right now, the city of Mitchell City only has one bucket truck, roughly. Its capability is only 40 feet in height. We're looking to get a more substantial bucket truck specifically designed for tree work. This bucket truck will have the capability to go an extra 20 feet. So we're looking at a 60-foot bucket truck. That's going to help out with more of taking down bigger, larger trees and alleviating a lot of the financial burden that's on certain line items that we use to contract out currently with the city. Second is 2 of our Ford 450 dump bed trucks. These trucks are 2014s. What's going on is the trucks are fully serviceable as far as the motor, the engine, the tires, and the frame. What we have going on is the dump beds are now rotted away. So we just replacing the dump beds. We're going to still preserve these 2 trucks. Third is GPS dash cams. The GPS dash cams, we're not going to specifically use these just to locate our assets, but we also, these units have the capability to also alert us with not financial, but maintenance concerns, like this truck has low fuel, or this truck transmission, or this truck is running wrong. We need to pull this truck over. It'll give us the capability to track
It's running real-time diagnostics.
Yes, real-time diagnostics, that's correct. And this also will send live feeds to our maintenance superintendent, Mr. Harris, as far as when these trucks are ready to be serviced.
Sean,
Yes.
if I could ask a question. So those GPS dash cams, they're gonna be placed in all the equipment, or what vehicles are they gonna be in?
Every piece of equipment that the street department houses. That's our tandem axle truck, wherever all pieces of equipment are pickups, our small motorized equipment like the municipal tractor have it as well. We'll be able to track and monitor all our assets within the street department.
Okay, and that includes vector control
Yes.
and all that?
Yes, and I'd like to reference, these are the same units that Ms. Tillman from the transit department uses currently right now with her buses as well.
Okay, so all street department vehicles and all vector control vehicles, every vehicle down at your place will have GPS?
Yes, and when we purchase it, we'll be able to track it
Okay.
and monitor it.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, the bucket truck that Sean has been talking about, that is owned by the maintenance department and is used by the entire city. Our department uses it, whoever needs it comes and checks it out. So I see his need for one, but the one that I have is not servicing his needs. And then when somebody else needs it, he's got it. If the park department needs it, they can't use it, and they use it a lot, when especially Christmas time and springtime. And that's when he has his biggest problem, is in the spring. So it's divided between the two. He's had it now for 3 weeks, and I've had 2 or 3 calls wanting to use it. He says trees with it. So he does need a better bucket, and a better bucket truck than we have.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, Councilwoman?
Yes.
Yeah, just one more question. So with the GPS, I know the park, you guys will have it, Vector will have it, but how about the park department? Are we looking at other departments to get these GPS dash cams put in them so we know what's going on with their vehicle? Do you maintain all the park department vehicles?
No, that's not me, that's Mr. Shen. and Pat Bowles.
No, who maintains their vehicles?
The park department does. And yeah, they'll be here Friday, so that would have to be a question for them.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that they can't have GPS dash cams put in their vehicles so they can hold those people and they know what's going on with their vehicles, maintenance-wise, productivity-wise, where the vehicles
They've just never
are
asked
at.
for it.
Okay.
And one more question on the GPS, is there, like a contractual monitoring fee for
Yes,
utilization?
Yes, I'm looking at a three-year contract, roughly 62,000 for 3 years. So it's, well, I think it's like 19,800 per year.
Okay. So, a couple grand a month.
Yeah. Okay, and if I'm able to proceed, the municipal tractor that we currently purchased, we purchased it early this year. It was for like snow removal stuff. We also had a stump ground attachment to help us with summer work. We're also looking to increase our capabilities. We're looking to get a boom flail mower because we get a lot of calls from residents to do the easement grass that's along ravines and ditches, and primarily sanitation does that, but their units, they basically have a lot of heavy workload. We get a lot of calls where we have to assist. This piece of attachment, could help us as well in alleys, the trimming alleys is needed. I'm also looking for what's called a boom flail blower. That's just an attachment that goes to the front of it. It blows compressed air with leaf season. Last and not least, I'm looking to lease a sweeper. I'm looking to get a 3-year lease for a sweeper. Currently, right now, we have 3, but 2 of the sweepers we currently have are at their end of service. I believe there are 2012 sweepers, and sweepers don't last that long. These sweepers run, they high RPMs. It's like running your vehicle. You redline your vehicle and you just driving like that for 8 hours. The longevity of the motor is going to be gone. So we're looking to lease a sweeper for a 3-year lease.
Just one?
Well, we already have one that we
You're
purchased.
looking to lease only one?
Just one, and we'll have 2 to service the city, because we service the city, as well as we have a contractual obligation with NDOT 2 times out of the year to do the state highway requirements, so we're gonna need 2. We'll keep 2,
And then the one lease one, you'll just change it out?
Yeah, so we're going with 2 sweepers.
Makes sense.
Are there any other questions? And Mr. Smith, as far as your bottom line for your budget, do you feel that it is feasible to carry out to run the city?
Yes, it is substantial.
I have no further questions. I have no recommendations at this time. Mr. Smith, I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You need some paper towels?
No, I have some.
Are you all right?
Yes. Next, we have Mission City Transit. If you'll please state your name and your department.
Robin Barzoni Tillman, B-A-R-Z-O-N-I.
Okay.
Tillman. That's big.
And I have your, the department head, your Q&A. And according to what has been provided, first and foremost, I would like to say thank you for your transit rolling stock that was provided to us that breaks down your equipment and everything. And also, one of the questions, do you have any substantial changes to your budget? You indicated yes. Could you elaborate what those changes are?
Actually, I had submitted this because I had requested a second janitor, bus washer, but in balancing the budget is not in my budget that is proposed today. So actually, I do not have any substantial changes.
And you said it's not in your budget, but that is a need that for your department?
Yes, it is, and it was with the plans with the new bus shelters going in, that we would need some assistance in maintaining the cleanliness, snow removal, and the sidewalks to and from.
And that's been addressed?
No, it hasn't, but the shelters haven't been built yet.
Okay, well, do you know what the status of those shelters are?
They're gonna break ground in the next couple of weeks on the first two, the one on Woodland and the one in front of the Housing Authority. And we hope by the end of this year, they will all be erected all together.
Okay. I'm just, is that something that could possibly be reconsidered? If, well, since we're getting these bus shelters and if we're gonna need the, staffing to maintain them, would that be doable?
Well, I totally misunderstood. I did not realize it was a second. They already have one. I didn't realize she requested a second one. I never got that request. So there's one in the budget currently.
Correct, but is that possible to be amended? Is that doable?
We could see, next year what the unappropriated balance is, if we would be able to additionally appropriate another position.
So there's no funding to do it now? I'm just curious.
Oh, not that I would be comfortable doing, reducing, the more we reduce the general fund now, the more that affects next year's budget. And right now, everything is balanced.
Yeah, Robin, when there's snow now, a couple inches of snow, 4 inches of snow, you actually send somebody out to clear the bus stops?
I have to wait until the street department has cleared all the roads and streets. I can call in an overtime rate to clean shelters, if they're available, and clean bus areas. But we're usually on the second pass of the snow event, not the first.
Okay.
And mind you, it's like we have over 380 bus stop areas, so we can't clean all of them. We can do the mains
Right.
and the shelter areas.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. I mean, is there any chance that, okay, a snow event happens, street department's done, doing what they gotta do, that they can loan a person over to the transit and let them go over and take a shovel and
That's
pail of salt and
usually,
clear out the bus stops?
2-3 days after the snow event, after the street department has completed their task. Now, at one point, it's like we use the inmates that used to come and assist us, the work release program, or I'm not sure what it's called. They used to come over and assist us, and they'd hand shovel our shelters. But since COVID, they haven't been back over or contacted us for.
Sure.
Did you have any questions? Discussion. Were there any more questions at this present time? I'll move on to the next
I
question.
have a question.
Yes.
So on the rolling stock, because we have a lot of them that are out of service. So, and it said, I know you said that there's I don't know, it's been an inventory issue, that the supply chain. But are they in rotation to be replaced in this budget at all?
Our capital is in a separate grant,
Okay.
and when it's put in the grant, it's an 80-20 grant, and the funds are already appropriated in the budget for our capital costs.
Okay. So we got new ones coming next year?
Yes,
Okay.
they're going out for bid in the next month. It goes back over 10 years. The road has got history, I do believe, goes back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it continues, and it's like we have a certain mileage, and it's like the ones that we've disposed of and where the equipment is and the history of our fleet.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
You also mentioned that For question number 2, do you have any positions not filled in your department? Do you still currently have 3 unfilled full-time bus driver positions
Yes.
open?
Why is that?
It's the employment market, our price point,
The lack of candidates or
lack of
lack
candidates,
of interest?
lack of interest. It's like the school.
CDLs, more money other places.
With a passenger endorsement, it's a little harder to find. That's a specific job criteria, and they've changed the laws on how to obtain a passenger endorsement. At one point, all they had to do was go to the license branch. Now they have to be trained by a registered trainer before they can go to the license branch and take the skills test to become licensed
If I
with a
may,
passenger endorsement.
and with the CDL passenger endorsement, what is the hourly rate for that?
Our pay rate,
Yes.
I think it's 22, it's going up to 22.
Yeah, almost 23, 22.71.
And what,
And it's kind of hard to compete when the school pays 25.
that's what I was wondering, well, competitive rate for that.
The bonus we have is full-time work. That's mostly part-time at the school, but the pay rate is challenging.
The lack of, the additional staff, is that, giving you challenges as far as operation, or are you making do with what you have right now?
We're managing, it's challenging.
You end up doing overtime, or?
We're utilizing overtime in order to cover the positions that are vacant. Also notice, like we have union contracts we have to follow.
Are there any other questions from the finance? Any other questions from the council? Then there are no recommendations at this time. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Moving on, our next is our refuse and sanitation.
It's under tab number 5. So those are the only 2 funds under that tab.
My name is Mike Milofruch, I'm the general manager. Good to answer questions.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Once again, one of the reasons why I requested, or the finance committee requested for the department head for the refuse and sanitation to be present is because we have to sign off on your budget. And we just wanted to know if we have any questions or information that needs to be provided to us, that we know what that is, instead of just signing off on something that because that's just what's in front of us. So moving forward, that's why we will always request that you will be in attendance for our budget hearings.
I appreciate that.
Do you have any questions? Well, do you have any questions?
As far as the new refuse trucks, yeah, when are they coming in? When will they be in?
Well, let me say that,
Because I see some nice ones, but I don't know if those are new ones or where all this is falling into place now.
yes, and I would be remiss not to thank the council for the ARPA support and making it possible for us to acquire equipment. We have just recently received the couple of trucks that we were waiting for quite a while because of the supply chain issues.
Is it
All right, so
cheaper?
we got two in, right?
Yes,
Okay, and are we expecting 2 more? 'Cause I thought that's what it was 4 trucks that we bought?
we're,
We only bought 2 with the ARPA funds.
right,
Okay, we bought 2.
With the ARPA funds, we only purchased 2.
Okay.
We are working with Drive Clean Indiana to qualify for some grant-assisted grants to purchase additional equipment, but that's in a delayed type scenario. We have to, I'm trying to think of exactly when. Ryan Lissick is our representative, and he has us in the queue, but there is nothing coming this year, or in '24 maybe.
Okay. So we got 2 trucks, and we don't have anything else ordered right now. So this will be it, right?
Yes, yes.
No trucks in 2024.
If I may ask, how many refuse workers do you currently have? And are there any unfilled positions open?
That's a pretty fluid situation, mainly because we have workers that, some that have sustained some injury and are out.
Yeah. You have 24 budgeted,
Okay,
and 1 position, the superintendent position, is not yet filled. So you
correct.
have 25 in your budget. And I believe all of those are filled, even though some may be off
Right,
on injuries. But the only one unfilled is the superintendent position.
that, yes, thank you.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you have anything else? Are there any questions for the, Mr. Maloney? If there are none,
I have a question.
oh, yes.
As far as the salaries for everybody, are you following the 6% for everybody?
I believe
Yes.
you did, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
the board has indicated that they would follow suit.
So they haven't approved that yet?
No, they
I
haven't,
don't
they
think
haven't
so.
approved your salary order for 24
I believe
yet.
it's gonna be at this meeting, perhaps.
Is it doing it next week?
Yeah,
Sometimes they do it a little later in the year,
right,
but
Late till
but it has not
changes.
been done yet.
Are there any large equipment purchases for the sanitary district in general, not just the refuse?
For the sanitary district, one thing that we need to acquire is a camera truck, the one that we have, and that's for the collection system, principally for sanitary sewers. The equipment we have is at least 10 years old, and it's, I believe, reached its service life. It costs us quite a good bit of money to keep it operational. We've looked at some various equipment. Its price range is generally somewhere between $272,000 to $290,000.
Is that in the budget?
That is something we're working to get into our budget, yes. We'll be discussing it with our board. We're actually hoping that maybe we could also, I don't know how much our money is available, if there's anything there that we could,
So you didn't put it in your 2024 budget?
No, she just asked.
no,
Okay.
the short answer. Sorry,
I got a question. So refuse doesn't generate any revenue.
correct.
So with bulk pickup or additional pickups aside from what the totals are, has there ever been any discussion as to charging for those services? Because we still, if we pick all that stuff up, we still have to pay to dump it, correct?
Yes, right.
So has there ever been any discussion along those lines?
I've not been privy to any conversation about that. One thing that we are moving to is more application of of our rules and regulations or code, and getting a better handle on the amount of trash that's being put out, or keeping it off the streets, getting the community to assist us in abiding by the guidelines as far as contacting us and not putting loose trash out into the street, the alley, the sidewalk, whatever have you, because it's already in violation of the city code or ordinance. I'm saying that because that will help us to keep the city beautiful and not have piles of.
Right, because in my mind, I'm thinking that you guys should just be emptying the toters and moving on when, you know, we see these giant piles of sometimes construction debris or everybody, you know, clean out their basement, you got couches, all kind of tables and all that stuff. You see it all over the city, but, you know, that stuff eventually gets removed by the city, but the city pays for it. So that's why I'm like, is there some type of funding mechanism that needs to be put in place, or something that your board can discuss to maybe use that as a tool to generate revenue, so you do have the additional funds to, you know, get the equipment or whatever else you need, so all the burden isn't on the city to pay for that.
Right, I take your point. I know there, some of the communities in our geographic area generally have trash pickup fees.
Councilwoman Deitch has a question.
Do we have an inventory of the toters that are at all the addresses and how many they have? And the reason why I'm asking is that we try, you know, everybody should get the minimal, but there are some places that have way more, and, you know, even 3, 4, 5. Do we have an inventory list for those toters? Because we just spent a bunch of money on new toters. So I'm wanting to know if we have something like that.
Yes, I believe we do. I will have to check with staff and see exactly, especially with the new order that came in, because I appreciate the point that there have been concerns expressed about the number of totes that are in possession of certain property owners.
Because I know they charge after the first or second toter, you get charged the fee for additional toters. And we just give people toters free.
I agree.
Or they take it from a neighbor who moved out,
Right.
5 or 6 of them, and then
Or they just steal them from your yard.
Gloves, a little bit.
I've seen that too. I'm like, you know, it's a single family home, and then you'll see like 3 or 4 of them out there. So,
Right. Well, point taken. I will follow up on that and make certain, especially now since we have these new ones that have been distributed, we still have an inventory, and we need to keep an inventory. And so I don't know exactly when, how people start to require more than one, other than maybe taking them from a neighbor or somewhere. But I know most communities, as you say, if you have more than one, you have to pay for that extra one, or there's some arrangement, but it's not, you don't get as many as you would like to have.
Tracy?
Yes.
Yeah, I have, not a question, but a point. Those are all good points, Councilwoman, and we're gonna have that workshop on September the 6th on the new ordinances that are coming down. So if you could gather all that information together, Mike.
Yes, I will.
Be able to speak to that point at that workshop, we can get this all cleared up and see what direction we're gonna be taking with trying to deal with this refuse situation in Michigan City and the toter situation, and trying to keep an inventory on the toter. And if somebody has 5 toters, well, I know that there's identification numbers on the side of those toters, so every toter should be identified, right? And be going back to an address, so all points that he should talk about at that time.
So noted. I
This is
appreciate
one
it.
more probably offhand question.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of what is the average amount of refuse we dispose of, like tonnage wise, like maybe monthly, and what that cost would be?
I'm sorry to say I don't.
Who pays your claims?
But
Who pays your claims monthly?
we,
Scott.
Scott.
Yeah, their finance guy.
Right, Scott.
I mean, but
Yeah, he would be
the
able to-
department head doesn't have to sign off on it?
I have to sign off. That's one of the expenses. I could get that information for you, but I don't have it committed to memory.
And they spend between $500,000 and $600,000 a year. And it's, landfill.
And the smaller trucks go what,
I
5?
believe it's 35 a ton is what
Yeah, it's about $35 a ton.
Okay. I was just curious to what that number, was roundabout.
Okay, Tracy, just one more thing, since we're gonna have that workshop on September the 6th, and we're all here. That Mike, I know we talked about this at the first sanitary district meeting of the year, on how to come up with a financing idea for refuse trucks. Because this all, comes into play, picking up garbage and having the equipment to pick up garbage. That at that meeting, could you be able to talk to how the sanitary district and the board, if they come up with a financial plan of how to pay for trucks going into the future, because I know we talked about that. And then the other thing was picking up refuse, not garbage per se with the refuse department, but household debris, construction debris. And I thought there was going to be a table on, okay, if you get the first pickup is free to the citizens of Michigan City, but if you look at that ordinance, and I'm not going to get into all that right now, that's not the way that's it's verbiage in there. So, what happened to that pricing mechanism that we were looking at? But we don't have to answer that now, just be able to talk about that. Okay, I'm done, Tracy. Go ahead.
At the workshop.
Yeah, at the workshop.
Yes.
That way we know what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Milanovic, I'd like to thank you for your time and for sharing that information with us. I don't believe you have any other questions at this time.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
That's the street
That's the
department.
street department. Okay, that's right, you told me to combine those. Okay. Board of Public Works. Board of Public
Yeah, Board Works. It's page 11.
Who are we looking at, Mighty Mike?
Board of Works, page 11. Oh, sure. I believe there was really no change to this budget, other than we moved the arborist from the Board of Works budget to the tree board budget. But this budget covers, things that we relate more towards the whole city. The phone system, alarm circuits, the flags out on 94. We have a budget to replace those several times a year. There's a small office supply budget that buys like the tax forms and copy paper for, for the city. We have, let's see.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, the memberships.
What would be considered a miscellaneous contract?
Those are just contracts that would come up throughout the year.
For example?
Like a GPS contract for the cameras on these systems, would that be?
No, that's a little pricey. These would be more like, we had to, have somebody do a title search or a survey on city property. So they would just be like small individual contracts.
But you can't budget for everything.
And we, because we can't, it's just the unknowns, you know, the $2,000, $3,000 type of contracts, that just come up throughout the year.
And approximately about how many miscellaneous contracts do you think you see per year?
It could vary, as many as 20 or 30, or as few as maybe 5 or 10.
Do you have any other questions, Patrick? Any other questions from the council members? If there are none, thank you, Controller Hoffmaster. In regards to that, moving on to the Riverboat and Boyd Development budget.
So we didn't know if we wanted to mainly talk about the riverboat is, other than the ESG loan payments and the operating transfers, the rest is all based on the individual departments.
What page?
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
It starts on page 99. That's the revenues. So the expenses start on page 100.
The revenues are projections.
Yes, those are,
Unless you're looking at the actual count.
I remember one year they said, oh, we never worry about the riverboat, it's gonna be this much. And one year it wasn't.
That was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Well, since COVID.
Yeah. The rainy day fund. Transfer.
What page you on?
So the amount that goes to the rainy day fund, where was that, what line would that be?
that's on page 109.
Yeah, so 25% of all the riverboat money that comes in, we take 25. After we have to make our obligations to all the local units per our obligations to distribute, then I take the next
What
number.
our line?
Yes, and admissions, I take 25% of it and I post it to the rainy day fund each time we receive riverboat monies.
I have a question.
Yes.
Just a basic question. So the 2023 amended budget versus the 2024 is about $1 million more. Is there anything in particular, large purchases or something that make up that? Or what is it? It's about $1 million. To go from 4.8 to 5.9? On page 100.
And so new things for this year, update to the fuel pump software for $50,000, capital grant match for the transit, $174,000, street department, they have, yeah, and the park's got a lot more too.
Yeah.
There's like 1.1 million for the engineer, which we put and this is money for the brick streets, money for the sidewalk fund, and then $750,000 in additional paving. We've got the bucket truck and the street sweeper and the municipal tractor attachments for the street department. The park has $500,000 to the destination playground. $890,531 is our match for the grant that the council passed a resolution earlier this year for the Ready Grant to finish the Single Sands Trail.
It's in,
Where's,
page 105.
that's gonna look,
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I started on page 100,
okay, I'm on page
and I'm just flipping pages.
Okay, okay.
Um,
I'm
But it's
good.
broke down by department,
Yeah.
that's fine.
yeah,
I'm good now.
oh, okay,
Okay.
all right.
Got it.
We have a green highlighted, we'll go with what the mayor's proposed budget is.
Are there any additional questions at this time? If there are none, thank you again, Controller Hoffman, for going over the Riverboat and Board Development. I would like to thank each and every one of you that came out, all the department heads, council, mayor, Mr. Fitzpatrick. I would like to adjourn our first round of budget hearings. Our next budget hearings will be on tomorrow, 5 p.m. Thank you.